When I came back from visiting my sister in Texas, I found my suitcases on the sidewalk. On top was a piece of paper that read, "If you want to stay, the garage is all that's left. A betrayal not from strangers but from my own flesh and blood." My name is Jane Mitchell. I'm 68 years old, a widow for nearly a decade. After my husband Tom passed away, life slowed down, but it didn't stop. For a while, I believed I still had something solid family. Tom and I built our house in Portland, brick by brick, literally. He was a carpenter, and I worked at the public library. We didn't have much, but we had each other, and that made everything feel full. It took us nearly 20 years to pay off the house, and when we finally did, we celebrated with root beer floats and cheap wine on the front porch. That house wasn't just a place to live. It was a piece of us. When Eric, our only son, got married to Lauren, we welcomed her into our lives like she was our own daughter. I remember the wedding, the way Lauren held Eric's hand during their vows, how Tom whispered to me. He picked a good one. We truly believed that. Years passed, and when they ran into trouble, Eric lost his tech job. Lauren's hours at the salon got cut. I offered what I thought was the best I could give the house. I signed it over to them. It's just a formality, I told myself. They're family. I'll always have a place here. They were young, trying to build their future. I still had my monthly income from Tom's pension and a bit of Social Security. I quietly kept paying the mortgage $1,800 a month, because even though the deed wasn't in my name anymore, that house still felt like home. At first it worked. We ate dinner together a few times a week, talked about everything from grocery deals to movies. I helped around the house, babysat their dog when they took weekend trips, and always made sure the kitchen stayed stocked. It wasn't perfect, but it felt like family. But slowly things began to change. Lauren began redecorating. At first it was just throw pillows curtains. Then one day my photos, Tom fishing at Crater Lake, me holding baby Eric, disappeared from the hallway wall. When I asked, she said, "Oh, they're in storage for now. We're going for a more minimalist look." My recliner, the one Tom gave me on our 25th anniversary, got moved into the basement. We just needed space for the new baby rocker, Lauren said. But there was no baby. Not yet. Eric got quieter. He used to bring me fresh bagels from the corner shop every Sunday. Now he barely made eye contact. When I asked him how work was going, he'd mumble fine and head to the garage. I kept brushing it off. Maybe they were just stressed. Maybe I was reading into things too much, but it got harder to ignore. I started hearing whispers, catching glances. Once I overheard Lauren on the phone. She just lingers, like she's afraid to leave the house. Then came the day I invited my bridge group over. We'd been meeting every third Thursday for years. After they left, Lauren cornered me in the hallway. "Jane, I really think it's time you start meeting your friends somewhere else. The house is just feeling crowded lately." Crowded. That word stayed with me. Another time I accidentally used Lauren's oat milk in my coffee. She didn't say anything, just bought a mini fridge and labeled everything Lauren's. Do not touch. Still, I kept paying that mortgage every month. Still smiled, still asked how their day was. But at night, lying awake in what used to be the guest room, now my room, I felt it. The shift, the unspoken wall growing higher every day. One afternoon, I asked Eric if he had time to help me fix a leak in the laundry room. He didn't look up from his phone. "We'll get to it, Mom." Eventually. Eventually came and went. Then there was the envelope I found on the kitchen table addressed to homeowners. I opened it, habit I guess, and saw it was from the mortgage company. Eric must have forgotten to hide it. That's how I learned they hadn't updated the billing address. Every notice still came in my name. That night I sat at the dining table long after everyone went to bed. I stared out the window into the dark yard Tom used to mow every Saturday morning. I whispered, "What would you do, Tom?" I was starting to see the answer, but I wasn't ready to accept it. Not yet. It was a Sunday evening when I got back from visiting my sister Clara in Texas. She had just gotten out of a minor surgery, and I'd flown down to help her for the week. It was a good trip, refreshing even. Clara made me laugh in a way I hadn't in months. For a few days, I didn't feel like someone's burden. I felt like Jane again. But the moment I stepped out of the Uber in front of the house, my stomach twisted. My suitcases were on the sidewalk, not just one or two, all of them, lined up like I was checking into a hotel that didn't want me. On top of the largest one was a folded piece of pink stationery. I recognized it instantly. It was Lauren's. The note read, "If you want to stay here, the garage is all that's left. Your loving daughter-in-law." I just stood there blinking. For a second I thought it had to be a mistake. Maybe it was a joke or some kind of strange misunderstanding. But then the front door opened. Lauren didn't look surprised to see me. If anything, she looked impatient. "Oh, good, you're back. We didn't know when you were flying in." I didn't respond. I couldn't. My throat had closed up. I just stared at her, waiting for something, an explanation, maybe even a laugh. But all I got was, "We figured it'd be best to give you your own space. More privacy. The garage is all cleaned up." Eric didn't even come outside. I wheeled my luggage into the open garage, numb. The place smelled like paint, thinner, and dust. In the corner there was a narrow cot with a thin mattress, one sheet, and a wool blanket. Beside it, 3 plastic bins labeled Mom's Stuff. I opened one. Inside were my books, my framed photo of Tom, and a mug that said Nagawang Grandma. On top of it all, another note. "Let's not make this harder than it has to be." I sat on the edge of the cot clutching that damn mug. I didn't cry, not yet. I was too stunned. My own son had let this happen, or worse, planned it. I spent that night in the garage, wrapped in that itchy wool blanket, listening to the muffled sound of laughter from inside the house I built. At 3 a.m., I finally allowed myself a sob. Just one. Then I picked up my phone and did what I should have done months ago. I called the mortgage company. The hold music dragged on for nearly 30 minutes. Finally, a chipper voice answered. I gave them my account number, verified my name, social, everything. "Yes, Miss Mitchell. You're still listed as the primary payer on the mortgage," the woman said. "You've made every payment on time for the last 26 months. Is there a problem?" I almost laughed. "Is there a problem?" I repeated. "Ma'am, I've been evicted into my own garage." She didn't know what to say. Neither did I. The next morning, I made myself coffee from a camping kettle I'd found in one of the bins. No cream, no sugar, just bitterness and heat. When Eric finally came to the garage around noon, he looked tired, maybe even guilty. But he still said, "We just need some space right now, Mom. Things have been tight." "Tight," I echoed. "Tight like shoving your mother into a garage while she's still paying your mortgage." He looked away. "Lauren thought it'd be best if I stood up. Don't you dare put this all on her. You let this happen. You let her do this." He didn't have an answer. That night, as I tried to sleep beneath the buzzing garage light, I thought about Tom. I thought about the fireplace he built, by hand the garden we'd planted with marigolds and rosemary, the years we spent making a life here. And now I was here, pushed out, boxed up, forgotten. But something in me snapped. Not in a loud, dramatic way. It was quiet, like the way the first crack forms in ice before it breaks wide open. For the first time in years, I saw things clearly. This wasn't just neglect. It was betrayal, and I wasn't going to let it end here. I stayed in that garage for 3 days, not because I wanted to, but because I was stunned, ashamed, and didn't know where else to go. Every time I stepped outside, I felt like I was sneaking around my own property. Lauren had changed the house alarm code. Eric stopped making eye contact. The silence was louder than any argument could have been. On the 3rd morning, I sat at the tiny fold-out table beside my cot, sipping the last of my instant coffee. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through my contacts. Most of the names were people I hadn't called in years. My sisters were gone, my cousins had their own lives. I hovered over one name for a long time before pressing call. Cynthia, my oldest friend. She answered on the second ring. Jane. Her voice was sharp with concern. Is everything okay? I opened my mouth, but nothing came out at first. I finally said, Cyn, do you have time for a cup of coffee? 15 minutes later, she was at the driveway, engine running, car door open like she was rescuing someone from a fire. I didn't even take my suitcase, just my purse and that damn number 1 grandma mug. We sat in her cozy kitchen, surrounded by the scent of cinnamon and the sound of her dog snoring under the table. I told her everything, from the signed over deed to the basement recliner to the garage relocation. She didn't interrupt, didn't blink, just listened. When I finished, she stood up, walked over to her cabinet, pulled out a bottle of Jack Daniels, and poured a finger into each of our coffees. Well, she said, time to stop being nice. I gave a weak chuckle. What do I even do, Cyn? They have the deed. The house is legally theirs. I gave it away. No, she said firmly. You gave them a signature. That house is more than paper. You're still paying the mortgage, aren't you? I nodded. She narrowed her eyes. Then you're still invested in it. And you're being used. The word hit me in the gut. Used. It was the truth I'd been afraid to say out loud. You need a lawyer, she said. Lucky for you, I know one. That's how I met Ben Cynthia's nephew, a 30-something legal firecracker with a quiet intensity and a surprisingly deep knowledge of elder financial abuse. He met with us in Cynthia's sunroom that afternoon, legal pad in hand, glasses perched on his head. He listened to my story like it was a crime scene report. No interruptions, just the occasional nod. When I finished, he leaned back in the wicker chair and said, They exploited your trust, but more importantly, they benefited financially while you continued to shoulder the liability. In English, I asked. In English, he said, You're not powerless. He explained something I'd never heard of before, equitable lien, a legal principle that applies when someone invests in a property but doesn't technically own it on paper. If I could prove that I had been paying the mortgage while not receiving any actual ownership or benefit from the house, we could build a case that I had a financial interest in it even after signing over the deed. Cynthia leaned forward. Can she get the house back? Ben paused. That depends. But we can freeze any action on the property. If they're trying to sell or refinance, we can stop it. And once we file, they'll know they can't push her around anymore. It was the first time in weeks I felt my spine straighten. Let's do it, I said. The next week was a blur. I moved into Cynthia's guest room, tiny but warm, with quilts that smelled like lavender. Ben helped me gather bank statements, payment records, the original deed transfer. He coached me on documentation, text messages, even voicemail logs. We found receipts from my account showing over $43,000 in payments over the last 2 years. Lauren had once sent me a text thanking me vaguely for helping them stay afloat, which Ben flagged as helpful. He even had me write a sworn statement detailing every change in my living conditions, every inch of space taken away, every small indignity. Judges don't just look at law, he said. They look at intent, at how you were treated. Meanwhile, Cynthia did more than just cheer me on. She took me shopping for a proper blazer, helped me get a new cell phone plan in my own name, took me to dinner with her friends, and introduced me as the most badass woman I know. I started to feel alive again, like a version of myself I hadn't seen since before Tom passed. Not just Jane the mother, Jane the woman, Jane the fighter. Then one morning Ben called. They're trying to sell the house, he said. I just saw a listing hit Oak Valley Realty. My heart dropped. That fast, I whispered. They've already accepted a contingent offer, he replied. But here's the good news. We filed the lien this morning. That house isn't going anywhere. For the first time in years, I laughed so hard I cried. That same afternoon, I got a call from Eric. I let it go to voicemail. Hey, Mom. Can we talk? Things are kind of complicated right now. I stared at the phone, my jaw clenched. Complicated. That word again. Ben smiled when I told him. They just realized they can't make a move without you anymore. That night, as I sat with Cynthia on her porch, sipping sweet tea under the fading light, she turned to me and said, "You know Tom would be proud of you." I felt tears welling up, but this time they weren't from pain. "I think I'm proud of me too," I said, and I meant it. The day the official notice was delivered, I was at Cynthia's kitchen table folding laundry. It arrived in a thick envelope, the kind that smells like legal consequences and secrets unraveling. Ben walked in behind the courier, grinning. "We filed the equitable lien and served them notice. They can't sell, refinance, or transfer the property now, not without dealing with you." I sat down, slowly holding the envelope like it was radioactive. "This is real now, isn't it?" Ben gave a single nod. "Very real." Within 24 hours, the phone calls started. First Eric, then Lauren, then Eric again. I didn't pick up. On the third day, they showed up at Cynthia's house. I was in the living room when I heard the knock. Cynthia peeked through the curtains, let out a long whistle, and said, "You want me to answer and release the hounds?" I shook my head. "No, I got this." When I opened the door, Eric looked like he hadn't slept. Lauren stood beside him, arms crossed, wearing oversized sunglasses like she was hiding from more than just sunlight. "Mom," Eric began, "can we talk? I didn't invite them in. Say what you came to say." Eric glanced at Lauren, then back at me. "Look, we were just trying to get things sorted. The house, the move. We didn't mean to. To shove me into a garage while I paid your bills," I snapped. "That wasn't an accident, Eric." Lauren stepped in. "It was your choice to pay the mortgage. We never asked," I raised my hand. "No, what you did was worse than asking. You assumed. You used me. And now that I've stopped being silent, you're scared." Eric exhaled sharply. "We just wanted to buy a new house." "Mom, a fresh start. We already signed the contract. If this sale falls through, you lose your deposit," I said. "Maybe your credit too." Lauren's jaw tightened. "So what now?" "You just want us to be homeless," I laughed bitterly. "Welcome to how it felt being dumped in the garage of my own home." Eric looked like he was about to speak again, but I stepped forward, my voice low and even. "You want to fix this? Here's the deal. I'll buy the house back. You transfer the deed back to my name and I'll cover the remaining mortgage balance. That's it. No profit, no gain. Just what I've already paid for." Lauren scoffed. "That's theft." Ben stepped out onto the porch, then arms crossed, suit jacket off sleeves, rolled up. "Actually," he said, "it's the cleanest legal option you've got. If we go to court, Jane has more than enough evidence for a financial abuse claim. You could end up paying damages and losing the house." Eric's face went pale. We'll need to talk to a lawyer." Ben smirked. "You're gonna need a good one." They left without another word. 3 days later, we met at Ben's law office, a cozy space in a converted Victorian downtown. The conference room smelled like lemon wood polish and quiet reckoning. On one side of the table, me, Ben, and Cynthia, who refused to miss the showdown. On the other, Eric and Lauren, flanked by a young, stiff attorney with a look like he regretted accepting this client already. "Let's be clear," Ben began. "Jane is prepared to pursue full equitable restitution file for elder financial abuse and freeze any and all joint assets tied to the property. But she's offering a simpler route." He slid a single-page document across the table. "You sign over the deed. She pays the remaining mortgage in full. You walk away with your credit intact." Lauren's lawyer read it carefully, lips twitching. "This is outrageous," she hissed. "We put work into that house. Renovations, landscaping, Ben cut in. Funded by Jane's mortgage payments. Eric looked torn, his gaze bouncing between Lauren, the paper, and me. For the first time in years, he looked like a little boy caught stealing from a cookie jar. "Mom," he said finally, "you're really going to take it all back?" I leaned forward, calm and cold. "I'm taking me back. You just happen to be standing in the way." Silence. Then slowly Eric picked up the pen. Lauren shot him a deadly look but didn't stop him. He signed. Ben slid the document back into our folder. "Congratulations, Jane. You just bought your house back." I didn't smile. Not yet. Not until I walked out of that office down the steps and stood on the sidewalk where the sun hit my face. Cynthia clapped me on the back. "Well, damn, Mitchell. You just pulled the rug out from under them with a smile on your face." I took a deep breath. It wasn't joy I felt. Not exactly. It was freedom. A week later, the deed was recorded in my name again. Official, legal, mine. The house was still standing just as I remembered it. The porch creaked the same way. The rosemary in the garden was overgrown but alive. I stood in the front yard with the keys in my hand for a long time, unsure whether to laugh or cry. Then I unlocked the front door. It was empty. Lauren and Eric had cleared out. Furniture gone, pictures gone. Even the old rug in the hallway was missing. Good. I walked through the rooms, slowly letting the silence settle into my bones. This time the house wasn't filled with ghosts. It was filled with possibility. Ben helped me get a new insurance plan. Cynthia brought over pots of fresh coffee and muffins to bless the space. And I sat in my old recliner now back in the living room and just was. I wasn't invisible anymore. I wasn't waiting to be heard. I was home. Owning the house again felt like stepping back into my own skin. But the truth is, when you've been erased for so long, simply reclaiming space doesn't make the silence go away. It just gives you room to listen to yourself. The first week after Lauren and Eric moved out the house was quiet. Not peaceful, quiet, lonely quiet. I wandered from room to room trying to remember how to exist without walking on eggshells. I ate dinner standing up for the first few days, slept with the light on, sat on the front porch holding a mug of coffee that always got cold before I could finish it. I had the house back, but what I really needed was to figure out what came next. Cynthia didn't let me wallow. She showed up the following Monday morning at 8:00 a.m. sharp, with a clipboard in one hand and a Starbucks in the other. "We're rebuilding Jane 2.0, she said with a grin. "First step, get out of those pajamas." I laughed for what felt like the first time in forever. "That's your game plan, coffee and insults." She winked. "Coffee, insults, and purpose." We start small. That day we cleaned out the basement, tossed broken lamps, dusty boxes, old cables from Tom's VHS days. I found photo albums I thought were lost pictures of Tom in his workshop, Eric as a baby in my arms, Christmas mornings that smelled like cinnamon and pine. By the end of the day I was sore and sweaty, but I felt lighter, like something was shifting inside. The next day, Cynthia dragged me to Rosie's Diner. I'd passed by that place for years, a retro corner spot with a neon sign and chrome stools that always seemed full of chatter. She marched in like she owned the place and introduced me to Rosie herself, short round with cherry red lipstick and a voice like sandpaper and honey. "You're Jane," Rosie said, shaking my hand like I was signing a peace treaty. "Sin told me about you. You have a waitress," before I blinked. Not since college." She handed me an apron. "Good. You start Thursday." Just like that. I showed up that Thursday nervous as hell. My knees ached, my back threatened rebellion, and I couldn't remember if people still used cash or just phones to pay. But something magical happened at that diner. People saw me. Old men winked. Young women called me ma'am with a kind smile. I memorized orders, refilled coffees, told stories about pies, and learned the local gossip faster than I could learn the menu. For the first time in years, I wasn't Mom or that lady in the garage. I was Jane from Rosie's, and I liked her. Rosie paid in cash every Friday, modest but steady. More importantly, she gave me back something I didn't know I'd lost: dignity. "You got a calm way about you," she told me once, wiping down the counter beside me. "Folks feel safe with you around." That hit me harder than I expected, because for so long I had been the one trying to make others feel safe at the cost of my own peace. The weeks flew by. I started planting in the garden again: rosemary, cherry tomatoes, basil. Repainted the kitchen in a soft teal that made the morning light feel like a hug. Hung my wedding photo back on the hallway wall and placed Tom's toolbox on a shelf above the laundry room like a shrine. I even joined a community book club. Wore lipstick again. Took walks without needing a destination. And then one Sunday after my shift, I came home to a letter in the mailbox. No return address. Inside was a folded note in Eric's handwriting. "Mom, we messed up. I messed up. Lauren and I are staying in a rental for now. Our credit's shot, but we'll be okay. I just wanted to say, I'm sorry. Eric." No excuses. No please. Just that. I held the letter for a long time, unsure whether to feel relief or rage. In the end, I folded it back up and tucked it into a drawer beside my Bible. I wasn't ready to forgive, but I could acknowledge the weight of regret. Rosie's Diner became more than a job, it became a tribe. On my 69th birthday, the staff threw me a surprise party. Balloons, candles, a sheet cake with frosting roses, and a card that said, "To the strongest woman we know." I cried in the walk-in freezer so nobody would see. Later that night, Cynthia clinked her glass to mine and said, "You ever think this version of you was in there the whole time?" I smiled. Maybe, but she needed a little push. She raised an eyebrow, more like a shove into a garage. We both laughed. That night I sat on my porch barefoot with a glass of wine and the smell of rosemary in the air. I looked around at the home I built twice, once with Tom and once with Grit. This wasn't a return to the past. This was a resurrection. And I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was living. It was a crisp Sunday afternoon when I saw the silver Honda pull into the driveway. I was sitting on the front porch with a cup of tea and a book I wasn't really reading. I knew the car. I knew the hesitation in how it parked. I even knew the rhythm of his footsteps before I saw his face. Eric. He stepped out slowly, hands in his jacket pockets, wearing jeans that looked slept in and sneakers covered in dust. His shoulders sagged. The kind of posture that tells you someone's not here to fight anymore. I didn't stand up. I didn't smile. I simply looked at the empty chair beside me and then back at him. He took the hint and sat down. For a long while we didn't speak. The only sound was the occasional creak of the porch swing and the breeze nudging the wind chimes I'd hung up last week. Finally he cleared his throat. "I didn't think you'd even let me sit. I didn't invite you in," I replied, calm as ever. "But I'm not heartless." He nodded slowly, eyes scanning the yard like it was the first time he'd really looked at it in years. "This place looks peaceful." "It is," I said, "for once." More silence. Then he said, "Lauren left. She moved back in with her mom in Eugene." I didn't respond. I just sipped my tea. "I'm in a small apartment now, over on 23rd, just me. Working night shifts at the distribution center." Still, I said nothing. "I'm not here to ask for money," he added quickly, "or help. I wanted to see you." I looked at him then. Really looked. My son, my only child. The boy I once rocked to sleep. The man who watched me pay his mortgage while pushing me into a garage. The same man now sitting beside me, smaller somehow. Deflated but not broken. "I got your letter," I said finally. He shifted, rubbing the back of his neck. "I didn't know if you'd read it." "I did," I said. "Twice." He nodded again, then stared at his hands. "I'm sorry, Mom. For all of it, I don't even know where to start." I placed my mug on the table beside me and took a deep breath. You start by listening. His eyes met mine. Okay, I didn't raise you to be cruel, I said. But somehow you became someone who let cruelty happen. You let the woman you married speak for you, act for you, diminish your mother one small cut at a time. He opened his mouth, but I raised a hand. No, let me finish. He closed it. You didn't hit me. You didn't scream. But you made me invisible. You watched them erase me from my own home. You heard the silence and called it peace. That kind of betrayal, it's not loud, it's slow, like rust. And by the time I realized what you were letting happen, I was already pushed out. Eric blinked, his eyes glossy. I never hated you, I continued. Even when I was curled up in that garage on a cot with no heat, I didn't hate you. But I pitied you. And that broke something in me. He swallowed hard. I deserved that. Yes, you did. Another long silence. Then he whispered, I didn't think you'd ever talk to me again. I didn't think I would either, I admitted. But time has a way of softening sharp things. He looked away toward the street. I miss this place. This place isn't just walls and windows, I said. It's memories. Some of them good. Some of them poisoned. I had to cleanse all of it just to breathe again. He nodded, then softly, Do you think we'll ever get back to what we had? I paused. No, I said, because what we had was built on me giving everything and asking for nothing, and that's over. He didn't argue, but I added, That doesn't mean I don't care. You'll always be my son. I just don't know if you'll ever be my family again. He winced at that, but didn't run. That at least was new. I understand, he said. I think I just needed to hear it from you. Not lawyers, not friends. Just you. I looked at him then and saw the weight in his shoulders wasn't just guilt. It was loss. I reached into my pocket and pulled out a small folded photograph, one of the few I'd taken back from the basement bins Lauren had shoved into the garage. It was of Eric and me on the porch swing years ago. He was 10, missing a front tooth, holding a sunflower taller than his head. I handed it to him. He stared at it, lips parting, eyes wide. I remember this, he whispered. Keep it, I said. Not because I forgive you, but because you need to remember who you were before all this. He held the photo like it might break. I stood. He stood too. You should go now, I said gently. He nodded. Can I visit again? One day maybe, I said. But don't come back just to ease your guilt. Come back because you've become someone worth knowing again. He didn't argue. He walked to the car, opened the door, then stopped. Thank you for not slamming the door in my face. I gave a half smile. I don't slam doors anymore, I just close them quietly. And I did. I turned, walked into my home and closed the door, not with anger but with grace. Some endings don't come with fireworks. Some are just necessary. And that day I chose peace over pain. I chose me. The leaves had started to change when I decided to throw a little gathering. Nothing fancy, just a few chairs in the backyard, a long wooden table I borrowed from Rosie, and string lights Cynthia helped me hang from the maple trees. We baked a peach cobbler, made iced tea with real lemon. Ben brought a bottle of red wine and a Bluetooth speaker playing soft jazz. I didn't tell anyone it was a celebration. I didn't call it anything at all. But in my heart, I knew exactly what it was. It was a quiet reclaiming, a marking of the moment where I wasn't just surviving anymore, I was living. Cynthia arrived first, holding a bouquet of sunflowers. For the strongest woman I know, she said, wrapping me in a hug. And before you ask, no, I didn't pick them from your neighbor's yard, not this time. Ben came next, clean-cut, steady eyes twinkling with that lawyerly pride. And guess what he said, handing me a manila folder? Official copy. You're listed as sole owner now. No liens, no nonsense. It's all yours. I didn't even open the folder, just placed it on the table and let the words wash over me. It's all yours, not just the house, my life, my choices, my voice. Then came the staff from Rosie's Lena, with her booming laugh, Big Mike from the kitchen who secretly baked the cobbler, and Rosie herself in a red dress that matched her lipstick. I told you the first time I met you, Rosie said, handing me a glass of wine, you had a calm power. Now everyone else can finally see it too. We ate, we laughed, we toasted. Someone played Al Green and someone else danced barefoot on the lawn. For a moment it felt like something out of a movie, except no one was pretending and I wasn't a supporting character anymore. I was the story. Later that night, when the guests had gone and the lights still glowed soft overhead, I sat alone in the porch swing, barefoot, warm mug in hand. The air smelled like rosemary and cinnamon and the faint memory of summer. I looked around the yard Tom and I had built, thought about the years I'd spent giving, pouring, softening myself for everyone else's comfort. No more. This home didn't symbolize what I'd lost. It stood as proof of what I'd reclaimed, not out of vengeance, but out of dignity. The door opened gently. Cynthia stepped out with a smile. Can't sleep. Didn't want to, I said. Didn't want this night to end. She sat beside me and laid her head on my shoulder. You're different now, she whispered. I'm myself now, I said. And I meant it. Because the truth is, family isn't always blood. Sometimes it's the people who show up when your whole life is in bins stacked in a garage. Sometimes it's the ones who see your worth when you've forgotten it. And sometimes it's the version of you that rises from the rubble. Have you ever felt invisible in your own home? Have you ever been pushed aside by the very people you once sacrificed? Everything for Jane's story isn't just about one woman taking back her house. It's about reclaiming your voice, your dignity, and realizing that sometimes family isn't the blood that raised you. It's the people who remind you who you are. What would you do if your own child turned their back on you? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We want to hear your story. If you believe every person deserves to be treated with respect, no matter their age. Like this video, subscribe for more powerful stories like Jane's, and don't forget to turn on notifications because the next story might just be yours.